row line of the DJC Collectibles studio, I'm Midwest professional wrestling legend Gage Octane. And now, a guy who beat Manute Bol in his prime in a game of horse, Kyle Peterson.
Welcome everyone, Kyle here to episode 8 of the Kyle Peterson Show. And of course, as usual, my co-host Angie. Angie, say hello.
Oh, hello.
Oh, hello. She leans into the mic there, of course. Let me get right into that mic. Let me like your Secret Service right there. But episode 8 of the Kyle Peterson Show is here. Really out kicking the coverage. As we talked about a few times on the channel, the average podcast out there only lasts 3 episodes. We made it to 8. Angie, I think we're going to shoot for 100 episodes, then retire. I think that's our plan. Okay. We'll see what ends up happening. Can we make it to 100? But 8 went by pretty fast, if you think about it. So
almost double digits.
Almost. How are you doing?
I'm good. Good.
How are you? Doing good. I'm a little tired today. A little sleepy.
Yeah.
Of course, but that's the way it goes. And, no rest for the wicked, as they say as well. But Angie, we got a lot of stuff to dive into today. We got a deeper dive. We're diving into street dates. Are you familiar with street dates at all?
Like code dated? Like, what do you mean?
Street dates. I guess Angie's going to get a little lesson here, a little retail lesson as well. We got figure of the week. We got album of the week. Instead of Tales from Retail, we got a new segment this week. Is an old favorite from the YouTube channel. It's called Story Time with Kyle. And Angie, I believe you've heard this story, so you'll be riveted to hear it again, I'm sure. But quite the crazy story from my college years as well. It was kind of like Saved by the Bell, the college years, but almost 100% different. Yeah, it was almost like that.
You were poor.
So pretty good. And then we do got reviews of the week once again. So there's a lot going on in this episode right here. And shout out to everybody that did put a review up, a 5-star review, Angie, of this very podcast. Wherever podcasts are found, we did give away 2 books last week to 2 winners, and we're going to do it again. We're going to do one more book. I got one more book right here. And by the way, Angie, this is the complete guide to the ECW original San Francisco toy makers by yours truly, with forward by Brian Myers, because I got to plug this, because you know why?
I do know why.
Why?
Tell him.
No, you tell him. That's why you're here for.
Because no one else will.
No one else will. Come on, what are you guys doing? Let's plug this book. But somebody's got to plug it. But I am going to give away another edition of this. All you have to do is find your podcast platform of choice, give a 5-star review, and then email that review, a screenshot to it, to the KylePetersonShow@gmail.com. And you may be a winner next week for this. Now, the 2 winners, you already won a book, so you're out. But we're going to read some other reviews this week. Those will be in the hat, and then over the next week, anybody else that throws a review in will have an opportunity to get this book. So
I might win one.
It'd be nice of you to review this. I give it a 5-star. I don't know if I can review my own podcast, but I guess I could. Who's going to stop me? But Angie, while you're waiting in the parent pickup line later today, maybe do a 5-star review here for the channel. That'd be great to do. So there it is. Also got to thank Angie, the sponsor of this very podcast. It is DJC Collectibles. Use discount code 8OFFDJC to save 8% off your entire order. A lot of stuff over there at DJC Collectibles. Of course, up there in Canada. So great opportunity with some of the tariff situations going on right now. A lot of stuff going up to Canada, of course. And Angie's very, very on top of the tariffs, aren't you?
Tariffs.
Todd McFarlane calls them tariffs, so that's why I said I'm going to call them tariffs as well. But DJC Collectibles is a place to get some stuff outside of the United States, so there's a little smoke and mirrors there. You might be able to get some better deals that way. Check them out. Tell them Kyle sent you. Use 8OFFDJC. And, of course, good friend of the channel, Jeff George, got to let him know. He, of course, making the music for the Kyle Peterson Show podcast. Should be seeing Jeff here in a couple of months. I don't know what is time anymore, but we're both going to San Diego Comic-Con together, so that's going to be a wore-out trip for me.
I was going to say, you're going to be exhausted.
I'm going to be very exhausted from that trip, so we'll see what ends up happening there. But, Angie, we did have quite the week this week. We did go to a vintage clothing fair. Is that what it was called? Like Time Traveler or something?
Yep.
Yeah, so we did go there. That was last Saturday we went there. And you guys know I'm a guy that loves a good Western shirt. I love a good novelty shirt. I love stuff like that. And Angie likes to look through stuff too. So, clothing is so daunting for me at these kind of things, at like to the Goodwill or anything like that, because there's so much hot garbage. It's like as far as the eye can see, hot garbage. And then you're looking through it and you're like, oh gosh, do I want to take the time to look through this? And then let's say you see something that catches your eye. What are the odds that it's actually going to be in your size? That is just so frustrating there.
I feel like everybody used to wear like smalls and mediums.
Yeah.
We're extra large.
It's weird now too, because like the old school vintage shirts, like the old large is like an extra large now, or is like a small now or something. It's like sizing's not the same. So you go through all this stuff to find one. Oh, it says extra large. Then you put it on and it fits like a child's medium or something like that. Same thing at those bin stores. We talked about the bin stores here. You like to do it, but I look at it and I just see seas of clothes and I'm like, so much of this stuff I don't like it to begin with. And then I see something I might like. And then you go through it and you're like, oh, it's a small. Oh, it's a kid's extra small. It's like, just frustrates me.
I did find a cute bra there last night, though.
She did find a cute bra for dog. You know, go put it on. Go put it on. Show everybody that cute snazzy bra you got there.
It's sheer lace.
It's sheer lace. We can blur it. We can do something. We can figure something out there. But it was quite for $1. You said, why not? Why not?
I can't believe it fit.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Well, it didn't really fit. I don't know if you could wear it, but you
Yeah.
should have wore it today for everybody.
Oh my God.
That's a missed opportunity for next time. There was no panties to go with it, but you said I don't wear panties
I don't think I could buy panties out of a bin.
No, and you don't wear underwear anyway, so that's a dirty secret for Angie. So watch out. You never know what you might see over there, of course, for old Angie. But what'd you think of that vintage clothing fair?
Bust.
Kind of a bust. I ended up getting 2 shirts. This is one of them, I think, wasn't
Yes.
it? Hey, Angie always picks out the wardrobe through the Western shirts and stuff, but I did get this one, $10, I believe. And look,
Yep.
the snap is open here.
Oh,
I
gosh.
better
You're a hot
close
mess.
that. I don't want anybody sneaking any notes in here. But we did find this one for $10. There was another one for $10, and I originally said no, but then they said, "Oh, everything's $10." I think it said $20, $20. I'm like, "There's no way I'm spending that much on these." But then it was $10. I was like, I could justify
This is a
that.
$10 job, you said.
$10. So not my favorite Western shirt ever, but I figured in honor, you probably said, "Hey, let's wear this one." And I think you said it
and
matches.
it's kind of purpley, so I
Kind
figured
of.
it kind of vibed with me. It's a different purple.
But I love a good Western shirt, and 99% of the Western shirts I own, they got the snap buttons. That's the key to a good Western shirt. You always know it's a cheaper brand if it's not snap. And I got a few of those. You know, you come across them a time or two. But it was interesting, that vintage thing. A lot of crazy people, a lot of different people there. A lot of people, I guess it's no different than a toy show. You got people that just know their things, and there's people there that they know their vintage clothes. There was a lot of crazy stuff going on there too. So
It's a weird vibe shopping with people at things like that and at the bin store, because people will just like come right in your territory. I mean, they'll
Nobody
come right
likes
next
it.
to you and just like
nobody likes it when you come in their
there's
territory.
no social cues. Everyone's
No.
just like going rogue.
No, there's people coming all over you, all over the place. In there. It's just terrible. This is terrible. It was horrible. But yeah, I was going through and I was looking through the extra large band shirts there, and a lot of country groups, a lot of Reba. Shout out to Reba. Reba McEntire, of course. Fancy. I believe your first concert ever was Reba McEntire, wasn't it?
Something like that.
Something like that. That's a country girl for you. But yeah, I'm looking and people are just looking right. It's just a wild time. I don't know. You got to be in the zone for it there. And it was like $10 to get in. So it was what it was. So yeah, I picked this up there. And then we went to that bin store and you found some bras, but no panties.
No panties.
On brand for Angie right there. So interesting one. But Angie, before we get to a deeper dive, I wanted to pull something up. I wanted to test your knowledge. Got the handy dandy iPad right here. There was an announcement over Mother's Day weekend, and it was the top 10 boy and girl names for 2024.
Oh.
Now, first thing, do you think Angie or Kyle made the top 10 on either of them?
No.
Oh, you're wrong. They said the power of this podcast, I was number 1, and you came in at number 10, unfortunately. I was number 1, she was number 10. No. But top baby names for 2024. Figured we'd run through this really, really quick. What do you think the number 1 girl name would be?
Oh gosh. Is
think-
Emma still on there? Because Emma was such a popular name.
She is on there. Do you want to guess what number?
8.
Nope.
Higher?
Higher.
4.
Higher.
3.
Higher.
2.
Emma was number 2. I don't know.
That's the only thing I hate about her name. It flows so good with L, but I didn't realize at the time when I picked it how popular it would become.
It is. Any guesses for number 1?
Oh, is it an S name?
An O name.
Olivia?
Olivia, number 1 in 2024.
I bet Oliver was high on a boy. Those like go together.
Well, we'll get there in a second.
Okay.
We'll get there. But do you want me to read down? Do you have any names like you thought of Emma and L?
Actually, Jim.
Yeah. But yeah, long story short, you named them. You know,
Yeah.
It was your choice.
Yeah.
Now, I've told the story many a times how I wanted to name Emma Evelyn instead of Emma Lynn. I think Evelyn would have been great. Of course, the throwback to heavy metal, throwback to Masters of the Universe, and then, of course, one of my all-time favorites, Evil Knievel. I think it would have been cool. It flows off the tongue, but she shot it right down, unfortunately, there. But do you want to read the number, or should I read them off? Number 10?
Sure.
Number 10, Sophia the First, maybe. Date myself with that reference. Elle used to watch that show. Ava at number 9, Evelyn at number 8, Isabella at 7, Sophia at number 6. So 2 different ways to spell Sophia, apparently. But I think that just lends itself to so many Golden Girls fans all these years later, of course. Sure. I think that's why. Number 5, Mia. Number 4, I'm an uncle to this one. Can you think of it?
Oh, Charlotte.
Charlotte. There you go. She pulled it out. Amelia, number 3. You never pull it out. What are we talking about? Number 2, Emma. And number 1, Olivia. So there it is. That's the top 10 girl names. Maybe you have a daughter named one of those. I know I do. I don't know if I claim her much longer.
First off, these names all sound the same. They all have the same kind of flow. And they've all been the same popular names for like years and years and years.
I think all those names are terrible.
We need new names.
Yeah, they're all terrible, especially Emma. Terrible name. Who knows? But now we go over to the boys. Can you guess number 1 for the boys? And it's not Kyle.
I'm going to go Oliver.
Oh, you're close. What do you think Oliver was?
He's in the top 3.
Yep.
I hear that name a lot.
Yep. I mean, because there's big fans of the Oliver, that Oliver. And then, of course, we can't forget Cousin Oliver from the Brady Bunch back in the day. I think that's really holding tight.
People like a name you can like shorten to something cute, like Ollie or...
Ollie.
Yeah.
Ollie Oxenfree. All right, so what's your number 1 guess?
Oh my gosh.
Not Kyle.
What's it start with?
L.
Liam.
Liam. What a terrible name. I'm not a fan. Sorry to all you Liams out there. I don't know. It just reminds me of the One Direction guy. Isn't that what it is that the kids like? Oh,
God, the one that died.
What?
He died.
Oh, he died? Oh, hard times.
Everybody,
let's all pour out our Monster. Monster, where are we at with that sponsorship? I'm waiting for that email return. What are we going on here?
He fell off a balcony.
Did he?
Hopefully it wasn't because of his name.
He said, I just can't live in a world with this name. So Liam, number 1.
It's been confirmed that was an accident.
He
was trying to climb out of there.
It always is. All right, well, we're going to go boys here. Number 10, William. That's an old-timey name. Billy. Bill, William. Number 9, Lucas. Oh, yeah, Lucas. How about that?
Lucas, please.
Yep, exactly.
That's a story.
Lots of stories about Lucas, of course. Number 8, Elijah.
Okay.
All right. Number 7, Mateo. All right. Number 6, Henry. That's an old man's name, of course. Henry. Number 5, James. Been around a long time. Number 4, Theodore. A lot of Teddy Roosevelt fans out there. It's crazy. He's just regaining in popularity, of course. Number 3, Oliver. Number 2, Noah. Any thoughts on Noah? Who built the ark? Noah. I think so. And then number 1 was Liam. So that's the boys' names, girl names. I don't know. Do better, folks. Name your kids better. Let's get some creativity in there.
People are trying to go vintage with the name, but it's not vintage enough, I don't think.
You agree. Let's get creative on these names, and then you shoot down evil. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Should have done it.
And the rules were, if it was a girl, Angie got final decision. If it was a boy, I got final decision. So I was going to go... Dylan Thomas was the name I was going to go with if we had a boy, too. For Bob Dylan, of course, the all-time great. And then my dad, Thomas, right there. So... Not the cards yet. We'll see what happens tonight. But that's it for the names. I don't know. Anything else in housekeeping this week? Quiet week, kind of.
My 2 other baby names, should I say those?
Sure.
That were 4-letter E names.
Okay, sure. What were those?
For a girl, it was Eden.
Terrible.
And a boy, it was Ezra.
Ezra? That never would have happened. That would have never got past my standards of practice.
It's hard to find a 4-letter E name. That's what I was going for. So I made a list. No. Thank God we never got to use them.
No. I got to name the dogs. Of course, that was the nice thing I got. I got to name the dogs. Lucky me. I did.
Your grandpa named a couple of them.
Yeah, he did. Once upon a time. Those guys long dead. Hard times. But there it is.
Oh, the dogs are long dead.
Yeah.
I thought your grandpa.
Oh, no, Grandpa's still kicking for now. He's still in the fight. He's still hanging tough. Hanging tough like a young New Kids on the Block is what he's doing. But Angie... Now it's time to segue to our first segment. It's time to dive into some street dates. It's time for a deeper dive. All right, it's time for a deeper dive. As every single week, we go deeper and deeper into a different topic. Maybe we dive into something from the toy news. Maybe we dive into anything across the board. But we're doing a deeper dive. And this one could be about a lot of things, but also action figures as well. We're talking about street dates, and I get that question in my comments on my YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel by now, what are you doing? If you haven't followed and downloaded the podcast, what are you doing? Make sure you're getting on both sides of the fence right there. And Angie dives on both sides of the fence time or two. But we got street dates is what we're talking about today. The bane of many collectors' livelihoods out there. What's with the street dates? We hear about it all the time, specifically at Target. Usually seems to be the biggest one there. You go to ring something up, it says, checker or cashier coming over. They take it from you. Sorry, this can't be sold till this date. Now, this was a huge thing growing up in the 80s. I don't know about the 70s. I can't relate to the 70s. But when I first remember buying things in the late 80s and the 90s with my own money, my own hard-earned money, I remember coming across a street date or two. Now, here's the thing with street dates. We're going to dive into it. And I think most people think of street dates. They think of movies, DVDs, CDs, things like that. Hey, The Lord of the Rings is going on sale November 11th. That is the day this comes out. It cannot be sold anywhere before that. And that's probably where most people think. I remember the old days when I was all into the CDs. I was balls deep into CDs. You remember that back in the day. I would wait at lines. Sometimes I remember the Beatles anthology. I remember I went on 2 vacations in my life as a kid. 2 vacations. So it was I think I went 2 vacations in my adult life too. But my dad had to give a big speech down in Phoenix, Arizona. Got to take the whole family. And I remember getting dropped off at like 16 out front of the Best Buy. And I waited in line at midnight to get the Beatles anthology number 1. I think I bought it on tape or CD. I think it was CD. But I was like, I don't know, 14 years old or whatever I was at the time.
It might have been a tape.
Yeah, it could have been. Who knows? But that's what most people think of with street dates is movies and CDs. But obviously we see it a lot in action figures in this day. And obviously street dates, why are they there? They're to ensure a controlled release date. They're trying to make everything fair to everyone. They want to know that Angie, if she's going to go to Best Buy, Walmart, Target, Kmart back in the day, Ben Franklin's, Ames, Hills, Alco, Shopko, Pomida, what else can we throw out there?
Oh my God.
Venture. Anybody remember Venture back in the day? There's a lot of different places you could go to, but it ensured every store would have them out at that same day. Now, of course, these stores open at 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 10 a.m., whatever. Some might get a little bit of a jump start there, but it ensures everybody to have the same opportunity at something. So what happens when you have a street date, it gives time for logistics, distribution, everything to get their product to the different Pomidas, Ventures, Walmart's, Targets.
Ben Franklin's,
of course. The local 5 and dime possibly as well. But it gets everything there. So, it might take their logistics thing 2 weeks, it might take them 1 week, whatever it is. It gets it into the back rooms of these stores all at the same time. So everybody has a fair chance. And it's a way for these companies to tell the retailers, Walmart, we like you a lot. Target, we like you a lot. Ben Franklin's, we like you a lot. But you're all in the same playing field. We're going to give you all the same time to release this one. It's a way to show that they care for these ones because you give it to Walmart ahead of time. We might get into that a little bit. Guess what? Everybody goes buys it at Walmart's and all these other suppliers, the Pomidas of the world. They're out of luck, unfortunately. Sam Goody got them. Musicland. There's a lot of them. Coconuts. You remember Coconuts? Yeah, you remember the Coconuts. Suncoast, all those as well. Everybody goes to Walmart, then they're all iced out. So it's a dangerous game on that one there. So, but it gets to the stores early, ahead of time, to give everybody a fair chance. That makes a lot of sense. And the biggest one nowadays, though, seems to be store exclusives. And that's where action figures go into, because you're probably saying to yourself, well, not everybody has a chance at the WWE Legend figures because they're a Target exclusive. Yes, that is very true. Not everybody gets a fair chance at that because it's only for Target, so it's a Target exclusive. Walmart feels like they don't do a lot of it, but every once in a while, you'll have some of this. But Target with the Legends, for instance, why is there a street date? It's only for Target. And one thing that really upsets a lot of people, and you've had it happen, Angie's just riveted by this one. Riveted. Don't start sleeping.
I feel like I need a snack.
You need to snap some popcorn and just sit there and eat and just sit there just enjoying it all. But you're saying to yourself, well, why is there a street date? Why does it matter if there's a street date if it's a Target exclusive? Well, here's the big thing, and here's the thing I deal with in my business hat world where I deal with stuff. Now, I deal with food exclusives, obviously, so grocery exclusives. So maybe not as fun as action figures, I think, for the majority of this audience for sure. But street dates are in action figures. They have them for clothing. They have them for everything in the store. But like I said, music, CDs, DVDs, that was kind of where most people remember it originally. Hey, the new albums are every Friday. They're every Tuesday, whatever it may be. But why does Target care about street dates for this? Well, here's the big secret nobody wants to deal with and nobody ever wants to talk about because you got to put your business hat on. But it is for Mattel and Target to say, okay, Legend Series 26, available Sunday the 15th, cannot be sold before then. Well, it's on the shelf. It should be able to be sold. Yeah, I understand that. That's very frustrating, and that's Joe Blow that works at that Target store. Doesn't care, and I get it. He's not going to be into the details and the weeds of that. He put it out early. It is what it is. Unfortunately, it just won't ring up. Now, we see it all the time where somebody will grab another Legends figure, they'll scan that one twice, take that out. Well, that messes up inventory, so you're just hurting that store in the future as far as receiving other action figures, because it's going to show that Kurt Angle figure still there, even though it's not going to trigger a reorder. So you're messing up the inventory. I know everybody's like, it doesn't seem like that big a deal. It is, because depending on the store, do they do monthly inventories, quarterly, every 6 months, whatever it is, it messes up the count for that store. So it's going to hurt you getting extra figures in the future. And if everybody does that, all of a sudden it looks like we got 12 of those Kurt Angles on the shelf. There's actually 0 of them. So that's a whole nother discussion there. I get it. I understand why people do it. I just wouldn't do it. I don't do it. It's bad for inventory. It's bad for, if it's your local store, you getting product in the future. And I bet you there's a lot of stores out there in some suspect neighborhoods that are really not getting anything. And that's probably a big reason why you're not getting anything new, because things have been
They're probably not paying for them at all.
Yeah, maybe they're not paying for it at all. And that's the other thing too. It's no different than stealing. So it's kind of in a way like stealing, because you steal something, there's no opportunity for it. They think it's still in the store somewhere when it is not. So a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But the big thing is, and I keep trying to get to this point and then I get sidetracked myself here. But the big thing is...
Only you can sidetrack your own.
I'm sidetracking myself. Oh, I've just got it quite the look right here. I'm just looking over here and it's throwing me off.
I need a drink.
What is in there? Alcohol? Oh my gosh, you can't be drinking alcohol.
It's just an Alani.
It's 5:30 in the morning. What
I don't get free promotion like you.
Free promotion?
With your Monster.
Oh, yeah, I haven't got any free Monster
Alani
yet.
in a cup.
I need to, yeah, exactly. But for about the 5th time, we're going to try it. Well, here's the big thing. Here's the big thing. Here's the big thing for Target and their street dates is because sales data. They're trying to track the data. So Target wants to track it. Mattel wants to track it. Legends comes out Sunday the 15th, and the next set comes out Sunday the 42nd of September. I think that's a day, the 42nd. Yep. They want to be able to track those dates. They want to see what they sold during that time frame. They want it on an even keel across the country, maybe the world, depending on the item, to know what's going on. So by people breaking street dates, people stealing the figure, people checking out with the wrong item to get that item, it ends up messing up the count, ends up messing up the look for Mattel and Target. And then Target's like, you know what? We didn't sell as many. Now, this is really getting in the weeds, but maybe they missed out on 2,000 sales. That's just throwing a number out there. Well, now they're like, maybe we don't need as many figures on the next go around. Or worst case scenario, maybe we don't want to carry the Legends line anymore. It's all about data. So much is data driven in this world. It's wild because I'm in a weird place in my life as far as being a salesman, and a song and dance man, really, at the end of the day, as I've said a few times. The weird thing is, I grew up with a lot of mentors and a lot of bosses that came up in, the 70s, 80s, and 90s, where really I hit my prime. Some people say I'm still in my prime. That's what you told me last night. You're in your prime right now. But I came to this business like as, management and stuff like that in, I don't know, 2007, 8. What is time? I don't know. But the old school way of selling things was, hey, buddy, I'm going to take you out to the golf course. We're going to play 18. And what's your favorite steak place? Let me buy you a steak dinner. Let me get some steak inside you. Let me fill you up with some steak. That was the way it used to be done. And it's all about talking sports, talking, things like that. And it's all about that. It's not about the items. Things have changed. Unfortunately, promotions have got taken away. Money, incidental purchases, stuff. I mean, I could still take people out to dinner and stuff like that, but it's not like it once was. A lot of companies say we can't go to dinner with people. There's
no PJs. No PJs anymore.
No BJs. There's plenty.
Private jet. The private jet.
Oh. Okay. I don't know where to go from there. Yeah, no more private jets, I guess. Okay. I was going to go a totally different way. And boy, I had some stories, but we won't tell those.
No BJs on the PJs.
Yeah, exactly. But you can't do that stuff anymore. So nowadays, when you're selling to consumer, it's more data driven. It's more this, that, and the other. And people are looking at that stuff more. Where the old days, I like Bob. Bob's going to buy me a round of golf at the expensive country club. I'm going to give him the space. Doesn't really go that way. So street dates, long story short, gets it so important to track that sales data for future planogram space, future sell-in opportunities. There's so much more to it. And like I said, if you start getting them early, you mess up the inventory. There's a lot of stuff. So I get it. Somebody's probably listening to this, maybe even watching this saying, Who cares? I just want my figure. Hey, I get that too, but you might not have your figures there in the future if these street dates are broken and things like that happen. Wow. It is what it is, but whoever thought somebody could talk 10, 11 minutes about street dates? And just so passionate about my street dates, let me tell you. And I think there's street dates in makeup and stuff like that too. It's like coming August 1st and everything has street dates. So that's the way it goes. It's an interesting world. It's an interesting topic to maybe a few people. Who knows? But Angie, that was a deeper dive. Now it's time for Figure of the Week. All right, Angie, you ready for the Figure of the Week this week? Be careful. We know you don't got any underwear on. We know how it goes. You
shorts.
Oh, I thought you were going to give a show. Oh, maybe she got shorts on today. Good for her. But now it's time for Figure of the Week, where every single week we dive into a figure into my collection. We go to something and we give it a little spotlight on the podcast here. And this week, we're going to one of my absolute favorite athletes of all time, favorite performers of all time, a guy that was so ahead of time. It's just boggles my mind in this day and age. What if he would have came around now instead of 30 years ago? What could have been? One of the most charismatic individuals of all time. We're not talking the Ultimate Warrior. We're not talking Flint. We're not talking myself, or we're not talking you either. But one of the most charismatic performers. If you don't know the history of this performer, you need to go back, watch his early Pancrase matches. Of course, this guy was the king of Pancrase. He was the UFC heavyweight champion once upon a time. Movie star. There's nothing this man can't do. And I'm one of those guys where I don't want to meet a lot of people. There's not a lot of people on my bucket list. This is one individual that I would love to meet and get a picture with. Just one of the all-time greats. One of the biggest influences of my life. For many a years, I got up every single morning and did his Muay Thai training, his boxing training. Back when I had more time, of course, pre-kids, all that stuff. But I was a disciple of his training CDs and DVDs way back when. Who are we talking about? Long intro to get there. We're talking about the man, the myth, the legend. We're talking about Sebastian Boss Rutten. And this week's Figure of the Week is the old school UFC Jakks Deluxe Aggression Style figures line. An absolutely amazing line. Now, we've talked on my YouTube channel in the past about the problems with UFC figures and how they just don't resonate really with the average public, unfortunately. That's why you see so many starts and stops in collecting. However, this UFC line was amazing. Now, I was not all in on this line, but I bought all the legend figures and then a few other key ones. Like the Chuck Liddells of the world wasn't a legend at the time, obviously a legend now. But this Boss Rutten, I could not believe when they announced Boss Rutten was coming out. I could not believe it. I knew I had to have this in my collection. It had been my dream to get a Boss Rutten figure, and I finally got it here in this line here. And a figure's so nice, I had to buy it twice, of course. Had to get a loose version of this as well. But man, oh man, and I'll never forget, Angie, I don't know how old we were and wherever. I don't think we had kids yet, but Boss Rutten came out of retirement, and he was going to fight Chemo. And I remember being so jazzed up for that. And then, of course, Chemo didn't make the fight. I think, I don't know if he got busted for steroids or something happened there. But man, Boss Rutten, just an all-time great. I just imagine what would have been if he would have came across a little bit farther on. He was one of the first guys to incorporate stuff. He was obviously a Muay Thai guy once upon a time, but then realized he had to learn wrestling. He had to learn jiu-jitsu. He was one of the first guys to really adapt and move into things. So very inspirational in a lot of ways, and just one of the funnest fighters to ever watch, and one of the most charismatic people ever. I remember that DVD, I still have it somewhere, of Boss Rutten's bachelor party in Vegas. Oh, check that out too if you never missed that. And then speaking of Boss Rutten figures, they also made little G.I. Joe style figures of the UFC ones as well. I have both of these. I have been on card one of this as well in my collection. So Boss Rutten will always be an all-time favorite of mine. He's right up there on my Mount Rushmore. Maybe one day I'll have to figure that out, but I got to think Boss Rutten, Ultimate Warrior, Flint, and Lemmy. That's my Mount Rushmore of favorite people, stars, actors, athletes, whatever want to be. Jose Canseco, dangerously close at number 5, of course. But Boss Rutten, an all-time great. Angie, any Boss Rutten thoughts from you? Probably not.
I just always think El Guapo.
El Guapo,
and he would do a little dance.
El Guapo likes to dance. That's right. He used to have that whole song, El Guapo Likes to Dance.
El Guapo likes
And my Jeep Wrangler, I even have El Guapo on the front windshield there, of course. And we had some guys yell out, El Guapo! And of course, it fits my name too, because in Spanish, you know what El Guapo is?
Like handsome one.
The handsome, I believe, something like that. But I am the handsome one, of course.
Was he the one that did the foot stomps all the way?
No, that was Matt Serra. Matt Serra, the master of the foot stomps. And man, I miss old school UFC. Basically, UFC 1 to like UFC 100 was just amazing for me. I was all in, and now it got too watered down. I saw it coming. I said, okay, they're going to have a show every single weekend. It's too much. It's too hard to keep track of. Yeah. And it lost a lot of love for me and all my buddies, too. We used to go to Buffalo Wild Wings, all this stuff, a bunch of friends. We would go every time for the fights. We'd get food. You'd always end up sneaking out early. Remember that? You'd always say, all right, I'm leaving. I got my food. Bedtime. I got my food. I saw the first fight. I'm ready to go. But we'd shut down Buffalo Wild Wings back in the day. So there it is. That is the figure of the week this week. An interesting one, an all-time favorite of mine. It is Boss Rutan from the UFC Jakks line. But Angie, now it's time for you to shine. And you're always shining bright like a diamond. It is time to try new foods because they might taste good.
We can try a little bit of this and a little bit of that. A little bit of this and a little bit of that. We gotta try new food because they might taste good.
All right, it's time to try new food because it might taste good. Angie, what do you have for us here today?
Pringles, exclusive flavors.
We got two of them here.
We got hot dog.
Oh my gosh.
And we got Philly cheesesteak. I don't know if the Philly cheesesteak is new, but this is definitely new.
I would say
but we've never had this.
Exclusive flavor is the loaded hot dog. And Angie, what do you think about hot dogs?
I like hot dogs. I don't think you really do.
No, I hate hot dogs. I left hot dogs in the past of my childhood, and I don't eat them. I can eat a bratwurst maybe once or twice a year, and that's it. But there's something about the look and the feel and the touch and the size that just doesn't go with me here. Well, what's a perfect size hot dog for you?
I actually like a smaller hot dog.
You do?
Like when they're like huge, they kind of gross me out.
Yeah.
That's probably why I don't like a brat as much because they're just like too greasy.
Well, some people say, like a Pringles can.
And my mouth gets sore.
It does, and mine's like a Pringles can, I think is what that's what usually people say. Some people say Pepsi's, but it's like a Pringle can, right?
This is basically a Pepsi can.
Yeah, kind of. A little bit taller, a little bit bigger, but yeah, I don't know. You like a smaller hot dog, but you've never seen that way, from what I've noticed and been able to tell. So I don't know, but we got a loaded hot dog and a Philly cheesesteak. Now, I like a Philly cheesesteak, and Angie is headed to Philadelphia this summer. I keep telling her, you got to have a cheesesteak. How do you go to Philadelphia and not have a cheesesteak? But it's not in her plans for whatever reason. There's regular cheese, and then there's Cheese Whiz. You better try.
I don't do good with cheese. We won't talk about that.
She's not a big cheese fan, but I don't know.
I feel like it. It doesn't
there.
like me.
But Angie's going to top these off here. I guess let's open them. We'll try Philly cheesesteak first.
Oh, my God.
How'd you give it a smell?
It smells oniony. And this smells ketchupy, mustardy.
Philly cheesesteak does not smell good.
It reeks. Well, I think it's the onion.
Oh, this does not. This smells very ketchupy.
These are two very strong tastes. I feel like we're gonna skew our taste.
And I'm not a huge Pringles fan either. I think Kellogg's bought them.
It smells like a Worcestershire or whatever that sauce is.
I thought Kellogg's bought them. I don't know. Maybe they didn't. I thought they did. I must have been dreaming. I don't know. Pringles are okay.
This really does smell like a hot dog.
I used to love the cheddar Pringles when I was a kid. That was a good one. And it's crazy when I was a kid too. I remember, when you're a teenager, you're just growing like crazy. And we're dealing with that a little bit around our house right now. You can just eat everything in one sitting. And I remember
big backs.
I would get home and my dad was like, "Oh, I got a can of Pringles," and I would just grab it and I'd eat the whole thing in like one sitting, and it'd be gone. And then my dad would be like, "Hey, where'd those Pringles go?" Let's not talk about that.
In my tummy.
All right, Philly cheesesteak, Angie.
I kind of want to try the hot dog first.
Okay, try the hot dog first. We're going to try both of them. What's it matter?
Well, because I feel like is going to be such a strong in my mouth.
I don't like that there's no color. It looks like a plain Pringle. So you can play some crazy pranks on people. Oh, this tastes like hot dog, not plain.
It really does smell like a hot dog, though, to me. With ketchup and mustard on it. Okay.
We'll see. All right, ready to go? Let's go. Out of 5.
It needs more like seasoning, but it does give a hot dog. It does give me the aftertaste of a hot dog, but I would never.
It doesn't give me anything. Almost like a vinegary. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's the ketchup. I don't know.
Mustard would be vinegary. Probably.
Easy for me. Low 1 out of 5. Would never buy these again. I would never get these again. These do absolutely nothing for me. It's a waste of calories. How many calories in one?
Well, you can eat 14 for 150. These aren't bad. They're about 10 calories a piece.
That was the waste of 10 calories. I'll never recover from that 10 calories. That was terrible. So 1 out of 5. Low 1 out of 5 for me. What about you?
Got a pound. Yeah. Yeah, I'll do 1 point. Well, I'm going to give it a 1.5 only because it does taste like a hot dog.
Because your girl loves a hot dog, a juicy hot dog in your mouth. You love those things.
But weird. Like, I can't.
I hate a wet hot dog when it like sprays in your mouth. Oh, no. No. I do like the bratwurst. You can get some of that cheddar and some of that cheddar cream gets in there. That's pretty good.
I'm going to have to brush my teeth after this.
Yeah, I don't know. That was pretty bad. All right, Philly cheesesteak. Now, I love a Philly cheesesteak, and I've never been to Philadelphia, and I haven't had a real one, is what people are going to say, and I agree, but the ones I've had are okay. All right, what are the calories on this? 150.
Same difference.
Same difference. All right, Philly cheesesteak.
Oh, way better.
Yep.
Which is weird because it reeks.
Very oniony. Now, it's funny on the can here, it's got 2 big pictures of onions, so it almost says it's an onion. Like an onion Pringle. Not quite Funyuns, but I do taste like a little green pepperish.
Yes.
Onion green pepper. Yeah, this is way better than the hot dog. Hot dogs almost taste plain. This actually has some flavor to it. I don't know if I really taste any bun. I don't really taste any cheese. I don't really taste any meat, but I taste onions and green peppers, and that's a big part of Philly cheesesteak, of course.
It does. Like the aftertaste left in your mouth does give you the essence that you were eating it, though.
Very interesting.
Yeah, way
Smells
better.
rough.
Ooh, it smells terrible.
But not
I
too
was
bad.
almost scared to eat it. Yeah.
Well, Angie, what do you want to go? Ladies first.
I'll give these a 2.3.
Dead air. Dead air. Dead air. Yeah, that's funny.
2.3.
One day I'll tell the story why I never have dead air. A lot of people say, how do you fill every second? And that goes back to my high school. When I was a kid, I had a high school, and we had a radio station in the high school. And of course, you got to be a DJ and stuff, and you took radio classes. And we used to have a guy, and he would dead air. Long story. We'll save it for another day.
Would he yell at you when you had dead air?
Oh yeah. Oh, it was a whole scene. I can reenact it right here at the table because you'd have 2 people in the booth doing it, and he'd be in the classroom. He'd be sitting there. We'll get to that story another day. We'll add it to the list.
No ums for you.
Oh man.
You never say an
Every once in a while. That's a whole other story too. Stories come upon stories, but what did you say? 2 out of 5 on that?
Yeah, I gave it like a 2 point something.
I'm a little kinder on this one. I'm going 3 out of 5.
Wow.
So if you're picking up one of the 2, that is the one to get. Still, they're not going to change your life. I don't think so. But cool for what they are, I guess. Obviously, we're coming into summertime. The grills are coming out. People are grilling. We're grilling. We're chilling and grilling too. So yeah, not bad. 3 out of 5
Way
for that
better
one
than
for
the hot
Pringles.
dog.
So there it is. We got to try new foods because it might taste good. It'd be interesting to see what Angie pulls out next week. What will she whip out for us? We'll see what ends up happening there. But that's try new foods because it might taste good. But Angie, now it's time for the album of the week. Time for album of the week, and this week's album is one you're very familiar with. Of course, how did Flint get turned here? What are we doing, Flint? Had attention right there. Had attention. I must have bumped him. But this week we got an album that probably near and dear to your heart, maybe kind of. Daughter Emma, absolute favorite album for her for a little bit. Unfortunately, she's taken a turn to the dark side. We'll talk about it here in a second. But the album of the week this week, we're taking a trip back to the 70s. We're going to Ace Frehley. We're going to his original Kiss solo album from back in the day with hits like New York Groove. That's probably the one most people remember, of course. What's on Your Mind? Rip It Out. Speeding Back to My Baby. I always listen to that right before I pull in the driveway. And Angie's there. I'm speeding back, of course. But one of the greatest albums of the 70s, if you ask me. Far and away better than all the other Kiss solo albums. I know a lot of people like the Paul Stanley one. It's never got me where I wanted to be got. The Gene one's pretty rough, and I didn't like the Peter Criss one at all. So your mileage may vary on that, but I think most people's opinions, Ace is the top one out of that. And it's amazing how my daughter Emma, bringing her up once again, she went through a huge phase of loving Ace.
Ooh, feeling so good tonight. Who cares about tomorrow?
She used to love Ace, and good friend of the channel, Jeff George. We've told the story on my YouTube. We even covered it a little bit in a video vlog, but we did get to hang out with Ace one night there. Jeff, of course, was with Ace that weekend, brought us in there. Emma got to get a hug from Ace, got to sit by him, got to get a picture. A very cool moment for Emma, who was absolutely starstruck about Ace. She was a big Ace fan at the time, so it was a really cool thing. It was cool for me, too, to get to meet Ace as well. We even got to go to the Thriller or Chiller convention there. Got to spend some time with Kim Coates of Son of Anarchy in the elevator. And he's like, oh, you're with Ace? And like all of a sudden, because we were with Ace, it was like, oh, you're a cool guy, so we'll talk to you. So I got to hang out with Kim Coates for a little bit, shoot the breeze and stuff, which is pretty cool, because one of my favorite actors, of course. Just a creepy guy, and I love the looks of him there. He's in the new Walking Dead. The Dead City season 2, so he's in that too. So shout out to Kim Coates. But that album is an all-timer. If you've never heard it, you better check it out. It's the perfect album around this time of year when summertime's just kicking. You throw it on the stereo, you're ready to blast into summer. It's a pretty good time. But unfortunately, a little bit of a sad story with this one here, as unfortunately we have a spare bedroom. We always call it Jeff's room, Jeff George's room. That's where he stays, and we kind of decor it to him. And now it's even more decored to him now, because Emma, as she goes through things, Emma's one of those ones where she changes her room around, and I don't want this in my room anymore, so she just throws it in that spare bedroom. And I was aghast, and I dropped to my knees, and a tear came out as I saw that she put the McFarlane Ace figure that she had so proudly displayed in her room. She put that over in there, just threw it in the spare bedroom. She doesn't want it in her room anymore. It's no longer room worthy anymore. Her time with Ace has moved on. No. She's out of it. I've lost her to hard rock once and for all, unfortunately, I think.
Hard rock?
Yeah, I think she's totally lost it. I think she's 100% K-pop.
Oh.
She's basically Korean. She's basically Korean at this point. You look at her, she looks like she's Korean. I'm like, we were to get a DNA test. But all she's listening to is this P1 Harmony. What else?
Stray Kids.
Stray Kids. A tease?
A tease.
A tease? What's this, a tease? I don't know. But apparently, get this, folks, we're going to Wrigley Field on June 26th for the Stray Kids. And then we're coming back on July 26th, going to Wrigley Field again. So the plan right now, we'll see how it figures out. I get off a plane from San Diego Comic-Con. They pick me up at the airport. I take them to Wrigley Field for a tease show. And then you guys go to the show. And then I'm in luck, as just announced this week, right up the street, the Aragon Ballroom is AEW Wrestling. So they're playing.
Faded.
Yeah,
Truly
so
faded.
I guess I'm going to find a way to go to AEW while they're all at Wrigley Field watching this stuff. I mean, that just makes sense to me. So hopefully Jeff George and I can go there. Maybe that'll be our plan. I don't know. But I'm just so sick of this K-pop stuff. I've never wanted something to be over. Like, these kids go through these fads. Unless you're me, you stick with it. And I'm just keeping fingers crossed they're not going to stick with this K-pop stuff. But it's out of control. It's out of control, this K-pop stuff. Get back to Ace. But you like what you like. You don't what you don't. Apparently, Emma doesn't like Ace anymore. And it breaks my heart. Now, I bet she would still listen to it. But
and we listened to it in the car the other day, and she was singing along.
Yeah, and I think it was like, she kind of had like that moment of flashback.
Yes.
Like, I forgot. I'm like, Emma, it's okay to listen to all this K-pop, but mix something else in every once in a while. Keep it back on the straight and narrow. Maybe we'll work on that a little bit more this summer. We'll see what ends up happening there. But that is the album of the week, the Ace Frehley solo album from the 70s. If you've never heard this, oh my gosh, check it out.
Get back in the New York groove already.
Get back in the New York groove. And, you know, if you live in New York, it's tough not to be in that groove 24/7 is what I've heard. So
it's just some feel-good music.
Just feel good.
Yeah,
makes Angie feel so good. You feel so good when you listen to that. I knew it. So there it is. That is the album of the week. But now, Angie, we got an all-timer, the first time on the channel here, a new segment. It's time for Story Time with Kyle. All right, time for a new segment here on the channel. It's called Story Time with Kyle, or as Angie calls it, a day that ends in Y. As every single day. Yep, I'm telling stories to the wife and kids, and 99% of the time I finish the long story. It's like a 10-minute long, amazing story. Most people be on the edge of their seat. They say, "Wait, were you talking? Were you saying something?" I said, I guess not." And I
you look up, everyone's eyes are closed.
Yeah, everybody's left the room. I'm like telling the story, and I'm looking, and I'm like, so then this, and then I looked, and everybody's gone. I'm like, where'd everybody go? But then I got 3 little corgi poos sitting there at attention, just looking at me. They're riveted by my stories.
This is why you record everything you
yeah, exactly.
say.
That's the thing. And I've said that before. That's why I have all these YouTube videos. I want to believe that one day I'm going to die. Maybe tomorrow, maybe later today. We'll see what ends up happening. But one day, everybody can look back, and my kids will say, you know what? There's 5,000 videos of my dad out there. Maybe they watch one video every single day, and it's just like I'm still there talking to them, of course. So I think that is a cool thing. The legacy lives on, as some may say. But it's time for story time with Kyle, and we've done this before on my YouTube channel. A lot of videos, a lot of reviews. We'll just break into whatever. Here's a story time, and I'll explain that story. But there's a lot of long-form stories that I've never told over there that's time to bring over here. And we'll do more Tales from Retail. I got a ton of those as well. But we'll mix in a few of these that are maybe school-related. And that's what this one is. It's school-related here. And this one is a time in college. I believe I was a freshman in college at a community college. Now, I was a guy, I worked full-time retail, the job, the grocery store. And then I took full-time classes in college at the community college. And I worked a part-time job for Red Baron Pizza. Shout out to Red Baron, the working man's pizza. So I was a hard-working man from the get-go. But I did take a class, and the cool thing about community college was I had a couple of buddies. My girlfriend at the time, not Angie, unfortunately. Sorry, Angie. I know you wish you were there, but my girlfriend at the time, my buddy Scott, a few others, we would all get together, okay, because community college basically was, I don't know what I want to do with my life, but you have to take X amount of classes to get your 4-year degree, of course. And why not go to community college where I can live at home and I can save some money, I can work, and I can just get all these easy classes, these basic classes out of the way before I have to spend big money, of course, at the 4-year college, of course. So that was the plan. And then, of course, I do the next step further. How do I get this degree taking the easiest classes as possible? So you had to have a science credit. And you think I'm going to take chemistry? Come on. I'm going to take chemistry. That's not going to happen. I'm not taking any of that stuff. But I did find one class there. It was ecology or something like that. I think it was ecology, I believe is what it was called, or nature, preservation, and ecology. Something like that. One of those foo-foo classes. That looks easy. Let's do that. So my girlfriend, my buddy Scott, a couple other buddies, we all took this class together. Now, it met, I think, once a week. It was a night class. We were all just in there, all the buddies and everybody. We'd go get dinner before class. We'd always go to KFC. There was a KFC right by the college. So we would go to KFC and we'd be, eating good like the Colonel used to back in the day in Kentucky once upon a time. We'd get the KFC in us, then we'd go to this class. But then one time there was a field trip, and we long for field trips, live for the field trip. I love a field trip. And Emma, this is the story about Emma. Everything revolves around Emma in this video. She just had a field trip to Living History Farms yesterday, like an old-timey farm from the 1300s. Churning butter, going with the blacksmith, all that kind of stuff. And she hated it. She was dreading the field trip. I'm like, I don't understand why you wouldn't go on a field trip. Because when you're a kid, that gets you out of the classroom. You're not having to learn. You're walking around. I longed for those field trips when I was a kid. I love the field trip. And no different with this one. For the ecology class, we went to the mountains of Iowa, Nebraska, right on the border there. It's called the Luss Hills. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of the Luss Hills. A lot of people think, the Midwest is all flat. Obviously, there's no Rocky Mountains here. There's a few mountains over here, but there's none giant ski slopes, anything like that. But it is definitely not flat in the Midwest, as we do know, right, Angie? Mm-hmm. So you go there, and I think you've been by the Luss Hills, but you've never been in the thick of the Luss Hills.
No.
I pointed it out to you, and you've heard this story before, haven't you?
Yes.
She's heard this story. So no surprises here for you. But we go to the Luss Hills, and I want to say it was like a 3-hour drive, something. We had to get in a school bus, and it was a whole fiasco. But I was still here for it. I'm here for a field trip. And I had to have been 18, maybe 19 years old when this field trip went down. So I was still a young man. I still am.
Field trip in college is kind of weird.
It is weird. And it was a weird thing. You had to align everything. So we go to the Luss Hills. So it's basically big hills, but I mean, it is pretty steep. I mean, it is a lot bigger. Like I keep saying, everybody thinks everything's flat. No, it's not. This is a pretty steep thing, but it's the Luss Hills and of course the glaciers and the whole rigmarole. We're not getting into the science class here, but we did go and we got to this place, base camp, we'll call it base camp. It's like you're climbing Everest. Here's base camp. And this is where we started off. They told everybody the rules of this. We're going to go on this nature hike and go through the Luss Hills. And, you got your book here and we're supposed to find this flower. You're supposed to find this tree. You're supposed to find this kind of rock. And then bonus points for animal. It's just one of these things.
A nature hike.
So it was one of those things. So anyways, we're there. We start walking. We got our guide and stuff. And I still to this day, and I remember thinking it was absolutely wild. We had this guide, and he, obviously, this is what he does for a living. He guides people through this thing. He's literally, sprinting. Not literally, but you know what I mean. He's going way too fast, and we've got, of course, they say everybody wear, sneakers, wear good hiking shoes, things like that. You got these girls in their flats and their sandals and stuff, just ridiculous stuff. Think of the ticks they could have probably picked up. I don't know. I just think of that. But this guide is just hoofing through this thing at way too fast. Now, my girlfriend, really good shape for the most part. She was wild though. She was one of those ones she's always super skinny, very tall and lean, and she would eat like a pack of Oreos every day. It was a wild thing that she used to do. But she was in decent shape, but there was others that weren't. And she had a friend that was a little bigger. She was a bigger gal. We'll call it that. Angie doesn't know the gal, but, she was a bigger gal. And then there was a couple other kids and people in the class that just could not keep up. And I could keep up with all this stuff, but my girlfriend was going to yell at you if you just abandon her and like, wait for me, help me. And, we're climbing up embankments and all this, and I'm helping everybody across. And I just can't believe this guide is just scooting by so fast. And a couple of times like, hey, could you slow down a little bit? Hey, these people are having trouble keeping up. So he'd look and he'd slow down for a second. Then he'd be right back at him like, what is this guy's deal? Why is he going so fast? So then we really got to a spot where there was like this little creek that goes through. We had to go through the creek and then up and down. Like, it just was ridiculous. We shouldn't have been doing this. And I'm up at the top of the thing and I'm helping help my girlfriend up, and I help her chubby friend up. I help her up there. And then there was a couple other girls there as well. There was this old mom, and she was like, community college, you get the young kids, the whippersnappers like me, but then you get the moms in her 40s, those kind of ladies.
Like me.
They're trying to reenact their life and, do better. Maybe they got into trouble once upon a time, whatever it may be. But I'm helping this girl up as well. And then next thing you know, I'm looking, I get everyone up. I've lost the group. They are totally gone. And we're out in the middle of the woods, and we're probably, 20 minutes into this hike. I've never been to these Lust Hills before. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know where they went. I start yelling. I hear nothing back. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. We're lost here in the Lust Hills. And I knew immediately, because I knew my girlfriend in and out real well. I knew real well that I couldn't tell her we were lost. I couldn't, because she would start breaking down. She'd be flipping out. She'd start crying. She was one of those. And then I knew these other girls there that would start flipping out too. And that's all I wanted. I was already nervous enough being lost in these Lust Hills. I didn't need a bunch of girls flipping out and going crazy on me. So I'm just like, oh my gosh. So I'm looking and I'm trying. And by no means am I a survivalist. I'm not. I don't think I could last out in the woods very long. Maybe a day at best. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Once it got cold at night.
Oh, and I knew. And this was probably like around 1:00 is where this went. And I knew it would get cold because it was kind of that weird time, kind of like the time frame now where it's nice and warm during the day, but it gets pretty cool at night still. So I knew there'd be trouble. But of course, my brain, I don't say it out loud. I'm going to worst case scenario. Oh my gosh, we might have to stay out here. Who knows what's going to go on? Are they going to come back and try to find us? And then I knew that's like there was me, my girlfriend, her friend, and then this other girl. So there was only 4 of us, and there was like 30 people in the class. So how in tune was that group to know, 4 of us are missing?
Right.
Ooh, so I'm like,
you had the book in case you needed to like look at what berries you could eat or. So I'm just trying. I'm sitting there. I'm trying not to show any kind of panic, anything, because I knew it wouldn't go good with this group of girls here. So we're going along, and I'm just pretending like I think they went that way, and I'm trying to like, okay, what do you do? And I'm looking, I'm like, is there any footprints? I'll follow the footprints. I'm just thinking like a real survivalist here, of course. And of course, no footprints. There was no rain or anything, so I couldn't find any footprints. But I'm like, okay, they had to went this way. And I just kept hoping I would see them. But you're up and down hills, all kinds of thick trees to no trees to big thick trees. It was basically a lost cause. So I said, okay, hey guys, I think they went this way. And I wanted to go to the top of this peak of this hill. And I figured if I could get us to the top of this hill, we could look down and I would see them somewhere. We could scatter the whole area and I'd find them somewhere. And of course we get to the top of this hill. And this is where I knew things were going south in a hurry. Oh no.
We get to the top of this hill. And what do I see at the very top? There's all green. There's no trees at the top. It's just a nice little top kind of thing. And it's all green with grass. And I see 100% dead deer. And he has been totally decomposed. So it's just the perfect skeleton of a deer laying there in the grass. No skin on it, just a skeleton, a pure skeleton. I knew exactly then that we were in big, big trouble because, Angie, I don't know if you were aware of this, and I read this or saw this somewhere along the way. Usually when an animal like that dies, other animals, bugs, all that kind of stuff take the body, they take off pieces of it. You rarely find an intact skeleton of everything together. So that means nothing comes this way. Nothing goes up there. Nothing checks this out. And I was immediately like, oh my gosh, that's not good. Usually you would have a leg missing or something. Some animal took it off. a wild bear, a cougar like yourself might have taken something like that. But no, so I'm just sitting there and I'm looking around. I'm looking as far as the eyes can see. I don't see anything. I start yelling. I don't hear any call and response. There's nothing going on. And these girls are all sitting there. There's like this big kind of, there was a divot, so it almost looked like a made bench. They're sitting kind of there in the grass, and I'm looking around, and I think they found out right there. They looked at my face, said, oh no, we're screwed. We're lost. And that's where it really hit them for the first time that we were lost. And I'm trying to do anything I can to keep everybody on there. I'm cracking jokes and stuff like that. And, my girlfriend's starting to cry. Her friend's starting to cry, like, oh my gosh, we're lost. What are we going to do? Oh my gosh. And, I'm trying, like, guys, there's no way we're going to be lost. They'll figure it out. They'll find us. Something will happen and all that kind of stuff. And I started joking. And this is funny. So this goes back to the older lady that I was talking about was like, let's say she was 45 years old. We had this class, and of course, I was always holding court in class, talking, kind of the class clown, as you can imagine. And we're talking, all the buddies and stuff in class. You always get a group of kids that talk a lot in class. This girl never said one word ever. Kind of like my daughter, Elle. She likes to keep quiet. She doesn't talk unless she's spoken to, and even then, sometimes won't talk. Mm-hmm. This girl never said a word in class. I thought 100% she was deaf. I thought that was the case, and you get special needs kids every once in a while. It was no big deal. But she never said a word ever. Nobody had ever heard her voice. So I think she's deaf. And this is me 19, maybe not knowing everything in the world either. But they're crying. I'm like, and then, the fat friend, I think she said that she was getting hungry, which go figure there. But she was hungry. But honestly, we were all hungry. You've been hiking through here. You're in the hot sun beating down on you. We could all go through water. And it's wild. If they did that in school in this day and age, they'd say, make sure you bring your water bottle, all this kind of stuff. They didn't do any of that back then. So they're sitting there, they're hungry, all this kind of stuff. And I joked to my girlfriend and her friend. I said, hey, if worse comes to worse, and I pointed over to the girl, I said, we can always eat the deaf girl if we have to. We could eat the deaf girl. And they're all like looking at me like kind of laughing a little bit there. But, I've seen the movie Alive. I know what happens. Somebody's got to go first. It's not going to be my girlfriend. I'm not going to eat her right there, especially in front of everybody else. I'm not going to eat her right there.
She had no meat on her bones anyways.
She had some. But I wasn't going to eat, my girlfriend and her friend just out of respect to my girlfriend. Wouldn't eat her friend. So we were going to eat the deaf girl is what I said. And I just jokingly said that. Knowing she's deaf, she wouldn't hear me. And, we kind of go on. I keep looking around. I'm like, oh, my gosh. And then all of a sudden, I get a tug on my shirt. Just a little tug. And I turn around, and the deaf girl speaks. And she's not really deaf. Go figure. And she says to me, and I'll never forget, she looks up to me, and I'm standing up, and I'm looking down, and she's looking up at me. And she goes, I have 2 kids. I have 2 kids. And she was very soft-spoken, as you'd imagine. I have 2 kids. And puts up the 2 fingers at me. And literally was pleading for her life that I wouldn't eat her. And I was just like, totally mesmerized, like, oh my gosh, she heard me first off on my joke, which was hilarious. It was hilarious. She had to be there. But she was pleading for her life that I got 2 kids. Please don't eat me. I have 2 kids. Like, she legit thought I was that kind of a person that I would just, ravage, just eat into her and tear her apart and stuff, like a zombie movie or something. And I said, I'm not going to eat you. I think I said something like, I'm not really going to eat you. It was a joke. And I said, we'll figure out our way home and all this kind of stuff. So it was wild. I remember just being very embarrassed when she said, I have 2 kids, like just pleading for her life to me. It was such a weird thing. 2 kids.
That'd be me. I have 2 kids.
Oh, it was weird. It was weird. But then I'm like, okay, we got to do something. We can't just sit here. So I went to my survival training, and I probably saw it in a TV show is probably what happened, because I was a kid in the 80s. In the 80s, your parents worked. Nobody was home. I was always at home, and I was playing with my wrestlers, playing with my G.I. Joes, and I was watching reruns of sitcoms from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. I probably picked this up somewhere, but I've seen about every single show of the 60s, 70s, 80s, probably into the 90s for the most part. I've seen every episode of every single show ever, and that's what I spent my time as a kid. A lot of yous out there were watching movies and stuff. I didn't have time for that. I had half-hour sitcom time, though.
Leave it to Beaver.
Oh, Leave it to Beaver. All day long. Dennis, I could go on every one of these shows, but a lot of people were watching the Back to the Future's Karate Kids. I didn't have time for that. I had 30-minute increments there, and that's what I watched. But I probably picked this up somewhere. I said, there's a creek down there, and if we follow the creek long enough, we'll get to something, because everything leads to water at the end of the day. You'll get to a street, you'll get to something, we'll find something. So we go down, marching down this hill, steep slope. I remember the high grass there. I'm just thinking, I'm going to get a tick on me. I'm going to get a tick on me. I don't know if I did. I don't think so. But I remember just thinking that the whole time. But we're going down this hill. We get to the creek, and I say, we're just going to follow this creek. And it was tough because I was disoriented, never been there before. North, south, what area are we going in? I'm not exactly sure. But we followed the creek. And lo and behold, it felt like hours. I don't know how long it was. We followed the creek, and where did we get to? We got back to base camp. We got our way back there. There's the bus, and then there's the teacher running over, just flipping out, going crazy. Where were you guys? And I just gave her a piece of the business because you're in college. I'm like paying for the like elementary. You can't talk back to your teachers, but in college, you can give them the piece of your mind if you want to. I'm like, I told that guide he doesn't, leave us like this, and I was pretty hot. I was more than half hot at the time, but she was so thankful because I guess they were just in the process of calling the school to say that these kids, and then they were going to get back to your parents and all that kind of thing. This is before cell phones really took off too. Right around that time where people were just starting to get cell phones, not the Zach Morris Polly Dangerously ones, but yeah, so she was all relieved because I'm sure she would have been fired or in big trouble if what happened was the kids got lost for an hour and 2 of the kids got eaten. And it was just, I don't know how to explain that. I don't know if you keep your job. But it was a wild time in the Lust Hills. Couldn't believe that girl could actually talk. Never heard her ever mutter a phrase ever again. That was the only time ever when she pleaded for her life from me. But it was a wild time. And every time I go by that Lust Hills, obviously I remember that story. But very, very scary time. And I didn't let it on to everybody, but I was pretty scared for a little bit. But I had to keep my cool because of these women that just flip out and go crazy. Just go crazy. I knew it would happen, and I knew all well. And and I forgot to mention they all did cry on that hilltop. All 3 of them were crying on that hilltop.
I wouldn't have cried.
No,
I would have been the one taking charge. I've been like,
you-
let's go to the stream.
You get pretty tough on those kind of things. Fight or flight, you're always ready to fight. That's for sure. So that is it. That is story time with Kyle. A wild time in the Lust Hills. Don't recommend it. I'd say go to Everest, go to the Rocky Mountains, go something like that instead. Don't. You can't handle those Lust Hills.
Dangerous.
Too dangerous. These Lust Hills. But maybe one of these days we'll go back one day. We'll see what happens. So there it is, a long-winded story time with Kyle. Even a couple of water coming out of Angie's eyes right there. Watch out. Watch out.
What's going on? I'm gleeking.
All right, so there it is, story time with Kyle. Angie, it's time to bring the show home. We got question of the week, and we got some reviews to read. Ooh. All right, time to bring home episode number 8 of the Kyle Peterson Show, and let's read off the question of the week. First, Angie, give us the question.
Okay. ONT6 Soldier. What's up, Kyle? Love the podcast. Been a listener since day one. My question is, I like the wrestling action figures and want to get into the hobby, but where do I start? I grew up during the Attitude Era. Any ideas or suggestions I should start with? Thank you.
Do you have any suggestions, Angie?
Don't start. Don't start.
Don't start. Run. Don't
You're
do
on
it.
a very expensive track.
Maybe. Now, obviously, you got to choose your own financial adventure. You got to choose what you want out of a collection. Are you one that, like me, wants to be a completist, get every single one, like a hot game of Pokemon?
Got to start small, probably.
Or do you want one of each character, just key characters? I guess you got to decide that. And then you decide what your budget is for that. Now, you jumped into the Attitude Era. I don't know if as a kid you were collecting. I guess that doesn't really tell us the age range, but maybe you want to jump into the Ruthless Aggression figures or the Titantron figures, R3 figures. Not a huge fan of that, of course. The Bone Crunchers is another one. That's probably the start of the Attitude Era, at least as far as action figures go. Maybe you'd want to get Bone Crunchers. That's not a terribly expensive thing. You can probably get those loose on card fairly cheap. So maybe that's where you want to start. Or you could very easily just start with the Mattels. Obviously, the Mattels are being made right now. You can go back. I think a couple might break the bank, but then you'll get some probably under retail, so it'll all even out. But maybe you collect your Attitude Era favorites that have been released from Mattel. You could go, of course, to the Classic Superstars, some of that. So really depends what style of figure you really like, how much money you want to spend. There's a lot of variables in that. And I guess, personally, I would say go back and get the Bone Crunchers, and I'd get every single one, but maybe not as realistic. If I was starting it, I would probably say, might as well dive into Mattel because you're still going to get figures coming in this day and age to be able to buy them at retail. But also, I think a lot of them, outside of a couple, shouldn't really break the wallet. I mean, $20-$30 a figure, even cheaper for loose for the most part. And maybe you build out an Attitude army. Now, it doesn't say. Maybe he wants to get everything. He came into it in the Attitude Era, but maybe been watching ever since. So that's probably the most sense. I would love to say go back and get the LJNs. Probably not too interesting to you and probably not for your wallet either. Very expensive. Same thing with the Hasbros. But my answer would probably be the Mattel figures. And I think Angie can co-sign that.
Just make sure it sparks joy.
Yes, sparks joy. That's right.
Collect what sparks joy.
You got to spark joy. That's
But yeah,
for sure.
unless you're doing it for a living, I would just buy, like, wouldn't you just cherry pick what?
A living.
Well, not a living, but like, unless you're doing that as part of your job, why would you be I don't know.
I was a
I don't know why
completist long before I even started my YouTube channels. I don't know how it has anything to do with it. I think it comes down to what kind of personality are you? And that's for me, I am a completist. Like when I was collecting CDs hardcore, and I should do a deep dive on CDs. I have a lot to talk about that. Albums, CDs, all that. Maybe one of the days we'll do that. But I was all in, okay? I'm getting all the George Harrison solo albums. I like George Harrison. I'm starting with All Things Must Pass. I'm getting every single one. And every single band I got the entire catalogs of. So that's why I ended up with 11,000 CDs at the top. So I don't know.
You're a little obsessive. Yes.
I am. That's why I don't do drugs, kids. Stay away from drugs, because I would do all the drugs. I'd be that guy under the bridge just servicing everybody is what I'd be doing for my next hit. But Angie, now we got to dive into something here.
God.
We got to dive into the reviews of the week. So we have 3 reviews this week, 5-star reviews. Shout out to that. But these guys are going to be eligible for, of course, the book. So we're going to give away a book. I should grab that over here. One of these will be given away this week. We gave away 2 last week. We'll give away another one next week. So get in your 5-star review. Email the Kyle Peterson Show at gmail.com to be eligible for a free book. And Angie will even sign it if you want her to. But I'll read the first one here, then I'll let you do one, then I'll read one. How about?
Okay, sounds good.
All right. This review comes from Scott Stokes. You never forget your first review. Kyle and his wife, Angie, modern macho man and Miss Elizabeth, are such a fun couple. Yeah, because I think I hide you in the closet like Miss Elizabeth a time or two. Fun couple and equally support collecting toys and share stories along the way. This show is equally fun to watch on YouTube or for daily videos and thousands of figure reviews Kyle has done over the years. Give them one episode and you'll be hooked. One piece of bread at a time or a loaf you will enjoy. So there we go. Scott Stokes sent that one in. Angie, you get to read this one here.
What? Oh, Antonio Delgado.
Yep. And then right there.
Okay. If you have been looking for a podcast hosted by one of the coolest figure collectors and his smoking hot wife, look no further. From the latest figure news to album of the week, the crazy tales from retail, this show has it all. So park yourself in a comfy chair like Todd McFarlane and get ready for a wild ride.
Oh, smoking hot wife. He won you over. He won you over. That's for sure. So shout out to Antonio. He'll be in the review there. And then last but certainly not least, Jesse O'Kelly, 5-star review. A great podcast. Kyle and Angie are entertaining and always a good time. There's something for everyone, from food reviews, wrestling talk, action figure news, music reviews, tales from retail that always lead to new stories. And ain't that the truth? Highly recommended. Pivot to another story. So one story leads to another. So thank you, everybody that's did the 5-star reviews, all that kind of stuff. Trying to spread the word on a podcast, trying to spread the word on a book, not easy, because I'm the only one that's going to be able to do that out there. And I don't know where you even spread the word on a podcast about.
Pimp yourself out.
It is. But, the podcast numbers have been very good. So I will say that. They say something like, if you have like 30 downloads a week, you're in the top 50% of all podcasts or something like that. So we're blowing that away as far as downloads. Obviously, video cast, I'm sure a lot of people that are watching on video probably aren't listening to it on audio. So got to think they're different people. So I think in the grand scheme of things, the podcast is doing pretty well, as from what I've heard. So definitely never going to get rich on it. I think I could buy maybe one action figure. So far, with all the revenue from the podcast so far, I think we could buy one action figure. So maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll see what happens.
At least all my clothes I buy are a tax write-off.
You could write them off. We got to figure that out with the tax man. Maybe we can write that off. They say this podcast, you got $10,000 in expensive, and you only made $24 for the whole year. How does that work? How does that math? Are you guys tax cheats? That's what they're going to say. Who knows? Who knows? But there it is, Angie. Episode 8. Any thoughts? Any thoughts as we dive into summer?
We're killing it.
She's speechless. She's speechless. We'll see. This weekend, we're going to this new mac and cheese place. We'll see how that goes. My daughter's been wanting to go. They just opened the first one in our state. It's basically like Chipotle for mac and cheese. So, story at 11.
But you know me and cheese.
She just doesn't like cheese. She just gets her all phlegmy. It's just nothing but trouble. Who knows what goes on with it?
My sinuses.
We'll see. But of course, as we close out episode 8, make sure you do subscribe to the YouTube channels. Check out the Patreon. Check out YouTube channel memberships. If you want early access to these videos, you usually get about a 5-day head start on the podcast, 4 or 5 day head start. So, and it's the best way to support the channel. Like I said, you're going to buy one action figure after 7 episodes. You can support the channel if you want to do that kind of thing. And then you get tons of other bonus stuff over there. And we're still working for a show Patreon exclusive for Angie to do. We'll see what happens on that in the future as well. But check out the YouTube channel memberships. Check out Patreon. Of course, the book. I won't plug it again, but remember the book. Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Maybe I just plugged it again. Or you can get copies from me. I'll autograph it. Angie can. Some people even want my dad to autograph it. You can do that as well. The Kyle Peterson Show at gmail.com. You want to be the question of the week. You want to send something to us. That is the place. Of course, don't forget about the review if you want a chance to win that book next week as well. Sir Paul64 on the X, the _Kyle_Peterson on Threads, Instagram. Don't forget TikTok as well along the way. So I think I've said it all, Angie. Said it all. So for episode 8 of the Kyle Peterson Show, Angie, say goodbye to everyone.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone.
Well, are we going to dance or are we going to play?